Every time I see two aquariums side by side, I always imagine what if they were combined. Now, I don't mean with filtration. I also don't mean like on some sort of water bridge that we've done before. I mean, what if we put the aquariums close enough side by side together and did one scape that it looks like both tanks are one? I started off with a cinder block stand. Now, since these aquariums are going to be so close together, down the middle, I'm going to allow the cinder blocks to support two of these tanks. These cinder blocks are 16 inches long, 8 inches high, and 8 inches wide. I'm using 4 stacked up, giving me a height of 32 inches. Now, they aren't fully painted, and I'll get to that in a little while. I also already had the support system built for these aquariums. And if you remember, we've actually set these two exact aquariums up in the past on exactly this type of stand, but never scaping it or setting them up the way we're about to. The tanks in question are 70-gallon aquariums we built in the past. These are made out of acrylic and are 32 inches long, 32 inches wide, standing 16 inches tall. Incredibly interesting dimensions. And like I said, put them close enough together and they look like they're going to become one. The idea here is to put a large tree root in the aquariums, looking like the tree root or tree trunk and or full tree is centered in both of the tanks and come out of it. Now, I didn't want the tree roots to match either side, so I put one that was a little bigger on one side than the other. I didn't want the tanks to be identical. I just want it to look like the tree comes out of both. For a substrate, I used a humate-based substrate mixed with a little bit of sand like I always do. This substrate's already wet as well, so I'll be able to begin planting it almost immediately. I want to actually point out how these tree trunks are actually placed in the aquariums. I want fish to be able to swim behind them and swim out, just like some sort of refuge. I don't want anything collecting back there and or being some sort of dead space. I also want them to serve as hiding the plumbing and filtration that we're going to cover here in a little while. There's plenty of room, probably 3-4 inches behind each tree trunk for the fish to get into and out of. This is going to play an important role for the fish that we'll be adding into it. They're going to want to hide from each other at some point. As for plants, well, I got a lot of them. Now, I've been having incredible success with planted aquariums as of the past couple of years, probably 4 or 5 years, and the simple fact of the matter is this. I'm discovering what plants will actually grow in my water, and I stick to them. And in this case, I have a severe issue with my Ambulia in my 700-gallon tank. In fact, it's taken over it. So I decided I'm going to rip off a bunch of it and use it in this new aquarium. It just grows so lush, it grows so quickly, it gives me an immediate, contrasting, beautiful green look to the tank. I was going to use scissors to take it out of this aquarium, but I used my fingers by just simply pinching it off. I've been doing this as of late, and I'm getting even better results than a scissors. If I cut it with scissors, the plants go flying throughout the aquarium, then I got to chase them down. If I pinch them off with my fingers, it's already in my hand. And if the pinch destroys too much of where I'm pinching off, I can always trim it with scissors anyways. This is just the fastest and easiest way where I can get massive amounts of clumps. You wouldn't believe it, but if I took all of this out, there's about 5-gallon bucket full of it. And that's compressing it. That's not the only plant we're going to add in. We also know that we have success with different types of dwarf Sagittaria and Cryptocorin. However, I did have a bunch of dwarf Sag and a little bit of Valisaria floating in my electric eel aquarium. As you can see, he's just sitting there right under the log, not bothering a soul while I go in and I get this dwarf Sag that I had to put in one of my aquariums just so it would kind of survive while I set everything else up. Shockingly enough, the electric eel left me alone and did not shock me at all. And then the planting process. Arguably, the single most boring thing that I do, and I have no patience for it. So we'll just jump to the end where it's planted. Dwarf Sag in the front, Valisaria kind of sprinkled throughout, and we'll look at that in a minute. And then the Ambulia in the back corners, giving me a more realistic background or backdrop to these tanks while hiding the entrance to behind the tree trunks, but most importantly, just giving us a nice filled in look almost immediately. Now it's time to build up the tree that's going to go on top of it. Now, these tree trunks have been used in many aquariums, and I've cut them up so many different times that you kind of gotta Frankenstein them back together. You'll notice one thing. The color of the tree in the aquarium and the color of the tree on the outside of the aquarium are two different colors. Even a bit of the tree trunk on the outside that's cut is a different color, and that's because it's all covered in algae. I probably should have pressure washed them clean, but I suspect maybe some paint came off as well. They've been in use for several years, and that's fine, because my next step was I was going to take a bunch of silicone, take some fake moss, and cover it up anyway. Make it look even more realistic. Now, first things first, let's make sure everything works. I wanted to check the power on these aquariums first, make sure that the plants are actually getting enough light. I'm looking for anything in between 50 and 100. All around the aquariums, I was getting an average of 75, which is pretty good, but really bright, so hopefully these plants take off before the algae does. The lights I'm using are actually just a pair of older Fluval plant lights, and while I don't find these guys work on deeper tanks, like over 20 inches, especially on 24, to grow any plants, they certainly do work really, really good on tanks that are 12 to 16 inches tall, and we've seen that over and over again. You'll notice that the dwarf Sagittaria is up front, the Ambulia in the back, and some random pieces of Valisaria in the corners of all the crevices of the tree trunk. One tank definitely has a little bit more room in it than the other, and that's fine. Technically, these tree trunks don't take up any space, though, because they are hollow. You can now see that the tank looks like it's one aquarium, but obviously that crease in between where the tanks connect are kind of throwing it off. I also found that the tree trunk looked incredibly natural, but maybe a little bit too much moss. I've been getting pretty obsessed with this fake moss from Aqua Decor lately, and I've been putting it all over everything. It just looks cool, and there's nothing like it in the hobby that I've ever seen, so I've just been throwing it on anything that it can stick to. Now this little corner of the aquarium gallery is looking really interesting with the large piranha aquarium, and then this double 70-gallon tree trunk tank. I'm not sure what we'll be calling it, but you're probably also wondering, how does it actually work? Well, first things first, I made sure I painted the bricks as well as the rest of the stand, and underneath each tank I had an Eheim 2217 on each tank. These are already cycled and ready to go, so I took them off old tanks that were running other aquariums that we've moved out to the aquarium gallery, and I tossed one on each of these tanks, isolating them from each other so if something happens in one, it doesn't affect the other, and plumbed them into the aquariums through existing plumbing that we already had, as this used to be an octopus tank and a mini shark tank, if you remember this build. Now it's time to add the fish. For such a Frankenstein-looking aquarium, two aquariums kind of combined with old equipment and a tree trunk kind of growing up between the two of them, sitting on a cinder block stand, but looking absolutely unique and just completely gorgeous, I thought for a Frankenstein tank, we should add in Frankenstein fish. You guys remember, we were breeding flowerhorn not too long ago, and we still have all of those fry. I thought we'll put all the big ones in one tank and all the smaller ones in another tank. We're down to having 3 big ones. I believe we started off with like 5 or 6 big ones. There was some culls, and it's an unfortunate part of breeding, but we do have 3 left that are in absolutely phenomenal shape. Then for the little guys. They're still a little too small to practice any culling, and I think we got about 10 of them left. But I think ultimately what might happen here is as they grow, we're going to see dominance in some of the flowerhorn. By the time they get big enough to cause any damage to the tank, it'll be so darn well established that even me ripping out the plants is going to be incredibly difficult. However, it's definitely going to be fun aquarium to follow along with, not only to watch this kind of fill out and evolve over time, but to see what those flowerhorn end up looking like. And now we have them front row and center. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really thinking flowerhorn from the beginning. I was thinking in both tanks just a massive school of tetras or something really fun and interesting to look at. But as I was feeding the flowerhorn one day up on a stool, I was thinking to myself, all of these little 15-gallon tanks should probably just be shrimp tanks. And maybe I don't want my flowerhorn up here, and I've got a super cool place that we could put them. We can't have them all together because of the size difference, but we do have 2 separate aquariums that are kind of one. I think this is going to be a fun tank, though. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. And what do you think I should do long term? Just let them battle it out until there's only 1 flowerhorn left in each aquarium? Or let them get to size, and as soon as aggression starts to show, separate them and keep one flower horn in each tank. Very interesting concept, though. You rarely see flower horns in planted aquariums, but I thought, let's give it a shot. I like to do some unconventional things, and I like to try new things constantly. And even if I get bored of this or I don't like it and I got to change it, I'm really having fun with it right now. And let me know in the comment section below what you think. Now, wait until you see the next aquarium. If you want to see it, you're not subscribed to this channel yet, make sure you do, because one of my next videos is a 180-gallon aquarium with fish that you're not expecting.